Loren, welcome to Mea Culpa. Great to have you. First time on. So let me just sort of lay it out for you. There's so much to talk about. Hour goes by way too quickly. So I'm just going to jump right into it. You ready?
Let's do it.
All righty. So Loren, let's start with Trump's so-called Navy 250th anniversary parade.
Oh my God.
He's shutting down I-5 in California. And I'm so thankful to have you, because you're from California.
Yes.
To answer these sort of questions. He's shutting down I-5 in California to stage a missile show from battleships. Not to honor the Navy, right? But to feed his need for attention. What does this stunt really tell us about what Trump's obsession with optics over substance is all about?
Well, I mean, for one, we know that we're organizing around the No King's Day protest, which is happening on Saturday. And I don't even know if the missiles are the most insulting part of this all, because they're also sending us JD Vance. So the circus is coming to town. JD Vance is going to be in Southern California doing some sort of spectacle leading this parade. And we just know that Trump loves attention and that this is to distract from the criticism and the organizing that's happening in opposition to him with No Kings.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about that, because the parade, of course, is going to conveniently, well, first of all, for many of my listeners who are not from California, I-5 is a major thoroughfare that runs.
No, we're going to have Carmageddon. Like it's going to be insane traffic at a standstill. You're not.
As if California already doesn't have a traffic problem.
I mean, like what people don't understand from other major cities is like, yeah, sure, traffic exists everywhere. It will take me like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get 7 miles. Sometimes I could walk, I could run faster, because our city was designed by the auto industry historically. So does not lend itself well to any public transportation. We're screwed. And that's a whole nother topic for the Olympics, which is also going to be a complete and total nightmare that our city does not have the infrastructure or preparedness for.
You know, one of my very close friends lives in LA as well. And I said to him, you know, how's this going to affect you? He goes, it's going to take me like an hour to get from my bedroom to my front door. That's how bad the traffic is going to be. And he goes, I'm not bullshitting you. I-5 is like, for us here in the East Coast, it's like 495. It's like I-95, where you shut down I-95, you're going to have traffic backed up all the way to every side street. I mean, it is truly a nightmare. And all for what?
To distract from his chaos and to give him all the attention that he wants. And it's going to be Carmageddon. It's going to be a nightmare.
Well, let me then put it to you this way, since you brought up the No Kings.
Yeah.
The parade obviously conveniently is going to block the No Kings rallies from happening that same weekend. How calculated do you think that this timing was? Because again, it is the Navy's 250th anniversary. But if you believe, as I do, that it's calculated, what does it say about the use of military spectacle for political suppression?
Well, we know that Trump and his administration are trying to silence anyone who opposes them. And he's clearly weaponizing the DOJ against his political ops. But what we're seeing is like we kind of riffed about yesterday, Trump trying to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization is intentional. There's no domestic terrorism existing within Antifa. And he knows that the whole movement is aligned around No Kings and our recognition of like this is an authoritarian takeover. We're living through a complete chaotic government takeover with Trump. And he sees that across the country in small cities and small towns, people are coming together to demonstrate in opposition to him and his administration and to hold them accountable. And he's like, oh, I don't like this. So let me cause the greatest traffic jam of all time to give it to Gavin Newsom. And to make matters worse, I'm not just going to cause a traffic jam and like light money on fire by sending missiles up to California. We're also going to give you JD Vance. leading the traveling circus.
I was thinking, because we're going to get to Antifa. You and I are going to spend quite a bit of time talking about that whole Antifa commentary from Trump. But here's something that I also thought. Now, I obviously pray to God it doesn't happen. But when you shoot off a missile, you do realize that they don't always hit the target that they are intending to hit. These are real missiles going up. Now, they may not have the detonation devices on the fronts of the missiles, but you are shooting a missile into the air. Reminds me very much when I was a kid. My mom will attest to this. I used to build those model rockets, right?
Yeah.
This is before you were born. There was a company called Estes, E-S-T-E-S.
Okay.
To those people who are around my age, you could buy small ones or you could buy large ones. I personally like the large ones. Why? I don't know, because they exploded better.
Why not?
Well, this one was like a 3-foot rocket, 3 foot high. And you put it, smash it into the ground with a stake. You put it, it has a big gigantic circle through the rocket, the hull of the rocket itself. It had all of these like M80s attached to it, and they would propel it up into the air. Once it got to a certain height, the nose cap would come off and it would come, back down with a parachute. And then supposedly you were supposed to be able to use it again and again and again. No, they always caught fire, or as mine, well, it tipped over and it went through my next door neighbor's window. Okay. My big concern when I heard that they're going to be shooting missiles and rockets off of a battleship, right, in honor of the 25th. What if hypothetically it goes wrong and ends up, well, not in my next door neighbor's window, but somebody else's?
I mean, like, when I saw the headline, it's just kind of like, sure, why not? Throw it in the cart. Let's just throw some missiles at California. It is so ridiculous that we are here, and more so that people are still listening to this jackass's demands about what to do. Like, it has to get through so many layers for it to get to this point. And Trump is just like on his like reign of terror, and people are like, sure, missiles, throw it in the cart. Why not? Let's get it done. It's insane. And
right? Could you imagine you go, let's just blow up a nuke. Let's just drop a nuke. We could do it.
I mean,
Pete, Hegseth, can you get me a few nukes?
And then it's like in his drunk text and signal. It's just so insane. Every day is like another day of this shit writing itself, because like, could you imagine if any other president in history, any other leader, a member of Congress, Senate did something like this? Like, we've just become so numb and accustomed to the chaos that it's not even as big of a story as it should be. Like, the man sending missiles and JD Vance into California for the hell of it because he's mad at Newsom for calling his shit out it's nuts. And it's not the worst we're going to see of him yet. We know this. Like, it's.
Yeah. I mean, I think when they do these military salutes, when you have somebody who passes and they do, like a 20-gun salute, the bullets that are in there, they're blanks, right? So you could point them at somebody and nobody's going down because nothing comes out of it. It's a blank. This rocket is not a blank. This shit is going up into the air. I mean, this is really, to me, I just think it's the wackiest thing I just think it's wacky. But on the same notion, Trump's pitch on this is that what he wants to do is to show the world our strength. To me, to many like yourself, it looks like more of an authoritarian flex, right? Missiles over democracy. You think there's any connection to patriotism? Or do you think it's just about dominance and distraction during this government shutdown, also with the Epstein crime files, also with the multitude and the plethora of issues that we wake up and go to sleep to every single day?
I mean, like, at a time when they're literally kidnapping our neighbors, stealing people from their homes, from school pickups, them investing the resource and time into sending missiles per Trump, it's a distraction. They'll do anything but release the Epstein files. They'll do anything but give Americans health care. But here we are talking about sending missiles, for funsies. And it reminds me of the ridiculousness of Charlie Kirk's memoriam, when I was like, am I watching a Trump campaign rally? Like, what's with the pyrotechnics? I've never seen pyrotechnics at a funeral or memorial before. And it's the same type of theater and a freak show. It's a circus and it's coming to town. And in California, we're like, what's next?
I've seen pyrotechnics at funerals.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The WWE, when The Undertaker was burying one of his opponents, and all of a sudden the fire around the ring starts going off, and they're shooting pyrotechnics up into the air. You never watched the WWE?
I guess I've never watched the WWE funeral. No.
No. Well, because, Linda McMahon is our Secretary of Education.
Yeah, and we're defunding that too, huh? Like no more Department of Education.
No, that's for sure. And Donald Duck is our Secretary of Fun. Meanwhile, so look, the way I'm listening to what you're saying, the fact that they're literally going to be firing live missiles off the coast of California. We have an ongoing shutdown, a government shutdown. We're in the middle of an economic paralysis. As you said, they're disappearing people. They're going to hospitals right after like a woman gave birth. They turned around, they took her, they took the baby, they wrapped them up.
They're taking pregnant women.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Does this feel to you like what it feels to me, which is desperation from a president and an administration literally trying to rewrite the headlines?
Yeah, I mean, like we knew going into a second term Trump presidency, we knew it was at stake. We knew that it was going to be no fucks given, no holding back, that this is just a pure power grab to enrich his own life at the expense of literally everyone else's. And I wish I was wrong about how far he was going to take it, but we knew that he was going to come in swinging, doing the most insane things, and him every day we're getting whiplash from like one thing after another. But to me, the thing that keeps me up at night and that is so haunting is that we are kidnapping folks. We are disappearing people, not just men. We are also taking pregnant women. We're taking children. The images out of Chicago when they invaded that apartment complex in south side of Chicago.
Yeah.
And there's images of zip ties and pools of blood next to children's shoes. The place looks ransacked and people are just left with nothing. And these are US citizens. These are people in the process of actively seeking their citizenship, going through the right motions. It's an attack. To me, it's all rooted in white supremacy and white nationalism. And this stuff has, even if you don't give a fuck about people, this stuff has an enormous economic cost too. So we're watching what they're doing, what they did with Alligator Alcatraz, and what they're affording to pay for the student loans and tuitions of ICE agents. If you're an asshole enough that you want to kidnap people for your career, we'll cover the cost of your education. So it's nuts. It's every day is a new low.
The part of Chicago that really threw me for a loop, of course, the disappearing, the zip ties, the children, the blood around the state. I know exactly what you're talking about. What really freaked me out, they use Black Hawk helicopters. Black Hawk helicopters, my friends.
To repel from Earth.
Yeah, they did. They repelled down. They were like if this was Fallujah. Black Hawk helicopters are used in military operations in order to secure a legitimate political purpose prior to war or during war. I mean, it's the Black Hawk. I mean,
he's not hiding anything. It's clear as day.
I mean, they used the Black Hawk when they went after Osama bin Laden. You may remember. I mean,
and they had guns drawn at children. Children.
Yeah, well, that'll send you to therapy, right?
Well, I mean, like I know your story, and I listened to and read some of your work last night, and the trauma inflicted on these kids that will stay in their bones in every cell of their bodies for generations. We are causing generational trauma. And the only like hope that I hold on to is like, these kids might be voiceless now, but with time, they are going to, should they survive onto adulthood with this trauma, they're going to be some of the strongest voices of dissent and like call for change. And not that we can't wait until then. Like, we have to advocate and do everything we can for them now, but fuck, we've really failed the kids in this country and the families if this is what we're doing and allowing to just go on like it's normal. I read a tweet yesterday. It's technically a thread, but I refuse to use that language, where somebody was like, in Nazi Germany, the Olympics still happened. People still shopped. Restaurants were still open. Like, it was very much business as usual. So sometimes I have a hard time.
If you were anything other than a Jew,
business was still going on and life, we can make the parallel right now with like what's happening with the Latino communities. Like, I am haunted by the fact that people have to live in fear and they're taking people from their homes and from the streets. We saw videos in Chicago and in Broadville where they were smashing windows of parents' vehicles at school pickup. Like, this is not about criminals. It's not about cartel. This is about white nationalism, and it's on full display. And, and then on top of the missiles, and like every day is a new day in the traveling circus.
You could say that again. Meanwhile, so Trump's rebranded the anti-corruption and pro-democracy protests, meaning, again, the No Kings protests as an example, and he rebranded. Listen, one thing you got to acknowledge about Trump, he is the king of rebranding, right? I mean, he's rebranding America into Trumpica, right? He has rebranded No Kings into the I Hate America rally. And that's literally straight out of an authoritarian playbook. Redefine dissent as treason. How dangerous is this kind of messaging to our civic fabric?
I mean, it's on par and aligned with the trajectory of everything he's done so far with the MAGA movement and speaking to the 3 brain cells remaining in people's heads on like, let's make America great. Let's do this. But like, Antifa is a scary word for people with little vocabularies and small brains that don't have the capacity to understand that it is literally just meaning opposing fascism. And fascism, as we know, is literally what Trump is doing right now. It's a strong man who is silencing opposition, wants power and control, wants to blame the shortcomings of his leadership on a specific group of individuals versus accountability to himself. So Antifa might sound like a scary word, and it's a good thing. It's a good tactic for them to use to mobilize people against it. But people have to stand up and say, we are smarter than this. We know better. We can use our brains and our Googles and figure this out. So I think what it signals is way more terrifying than like what we see on the surface with like them attempting to, or kind of designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. One of the things that I believe to be writing on the wall is that we know that they're not going to stop at immigrant communities. They've already pushed far past that, but I really have reason to believe that what's next is that they're going to continue going after activists, organizers, people who speak out publicly in dissent of Trump. We saw that this summer with the Department of Homeland Security detaining people at the airport for hours and questioning them about their social media presence or stickers on their luggage. Anyone who opposed Trump or stood for a pro-democracy world were being held. So what's next? Is it they're coming into the homes of organizers? I mean, you're seeing that firsthand with Department of Justice and Letitia James, and you called a lot of that stuff, but we know inevitably they're not going to stop here.
Well, they have no intention of stopping there, which sort of, I want to jump into this whole concept for a second about Antifa, right? Because as you just stated, the administration blaming this all on Antifa for paying and organizing these rallies. They're claiming again that Antifa is the one that's producing those placards.
What are the placards?
Yeah, a placard, like where it says mass deportation now, those signs. Mm-hmm. But reporters on the ground are saying that it has nothing to do with these extremists that the administration is trying to portray them as. You're talking about veterans, doctors, lawyers, bankers, teachers, families, white collar, blue collar, police officers. You have, you have firemen, you have, white collar, you have everybody. We all know this boogeyman strategy of using Antifa, but I think the part that people are refusing to discuss, and I think it's important, you hear people like Ted Cruz, you hear people, every single one of the enablers, the sycophants, right? Those that think they're within Trump's inner circle, all saying the same thing, that Antifa, which Trump has already designated as a terrorist organization. Here's the whole problem, and we don't hear enough of it. Antifa is an idea. It's not an organization. It's not like the NRA.
No dues.
Right. It's not like the NRA. Body
or organizer, no elections. Yeah, it's a principle. And it literally just means opposing fascism.
So if you don't have a hierarchy, there's no president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. There is no headquarters. If you today wanted to write a check to Antifa, there is no organization. There is no bank account. Nothing that they're talking about is true. But yet, when you have people, even like a senator, like a Ted Cruz, that gets up there and talks about Antifa as if they are legitimate, the way I see it is that if hypothetically, Loren, that you go to a No Kings rally, well, therefore, you're a supporter of Antifa. Ipso de facto, you are a member of Antifa. Antifa has now been declared a terrorist organization, i.e., you are now deemed to be a terrorist and you could be detained. Mm-hmm. That's, to me, the strategy.
Yeah, it's absolutely the strategy.
You ever try launching a podcast with zero experience? Well, let me tell you, it's like being tossed into a cage match with a grizzly bear, blindfolded, wearing clown shoes. I mean, when I started Mea Culpa, I thought to myself, come on, how hard can this be? Well, script writing, logos, production schedules, ad deals, and don't even get me started on the tech setup. I mean, I felt like I was decoding the damn Matrix. If only I had Shopify when I launched this beast. Shopify is the platform behind millions of businesses across the globe, responsible for a whopping 10%, you hear me? 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. And my friends, that's not hype. That's a fact. From big names like Mattel and Gymshark to folks just getting their hustle off the ground, Shopify's got their back. I mean, you want a gorgeous online store? Shopify's got hundreds of sleek, ready-to-go templates that make you look like a design god. And AI tools? Yeah, they've got those too. Writing your product descriptions, jazzing up your images, maybe even making you sound smarter than you actually are. I mean, not naming names or anything, right? I mean, need a marketing squad? Shopify's built-in tools let you hit email, Instagram, TikTok, wherever your customers are scrolling or doom scrolling. And listen, Shopify handles it all. Inventory, returns, international shipping. I mean, they are the ride or die business partner that you never knew that you needed. So if you got a big idea or even a little one and you're ready to turn that dream into a reality, head over to shopify.com/Cohen. So if you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify and sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Cohen. That's Shopify, SHOPIFY.com/Cohen. One more time, that's shopify.com/Cohen.
And I recognize the risk when I show up to protests every single time. I've been protesting for over a decade now. And to your point, we see that when we're on the ground. Protest movements are inherently peaceful. There's people showing up in community together to resist and to demand peace and resist. And it's nuts to me. We saw this play out with the Black Lives Matter movement and the uprising in support of George Floyd, and how they painted protesters as these violent criminals smashing windows and grabbing property and all this stuff. But it's a distraction from the real violence. And what's happening here, and when they say Antifa and stuff, they're distracting from the real violence, which is the state-sanctioned violence and brutality that's happening at the hands of our law enforcement, of ICE, of Department of Homeland Security, stealing people off the street. Just pregnant women are miscarrying in detention facilities. They're being held without water in cockroach-infested places. The images of Kristi Noem at one of those detention centers is haunting. And we know that this is all just part of Trump's distraction. I was at a coalition office in Compton when ICE raids really became elevated this spring. And at the coalition offices, it's a collective of different organizers. And the first thing that they do with everyone in the room is make you agree to be nonviolent and to remain nonviolent in your resistance. And if that's not within anyone's objective, they ask you to leave. So we know that also counter protesters and agitators are a constant, especially at these mass demonstrations. I've seen them. I know them. I've also been targeted by like the communist ones that like masquerade as liberal progressive organizers and show up at every mass demonstration. So we know that they're in there to distract. And, it bothers me to no end that when we see legacy media coverage of these movements, that it's like, oh, it's about the property and it's about this smashed window and graffiti. And it's like, how are you that dumb that you don't realize that no property is on par with the level of violence of a human life that we are destroying with our actions, and all state sanctioned? So this weekend's going to be interesting. We're getting data that's supporting that this is going to be one of the largest mass demonstrations. I read a lot from the kind of Erica Chenoweth and the 3.5% movement. We know that it takes 3.5% of a population to resist, to enact real change. We know that people are going to say, oh, protests don't do anything, whatever. But we've seen action and legislative change come out of these demonstrations over the last 5 years, especially. So Trump's little ego is going to be hurt, but the people are over it, and we've had enough. And it's pretty beautiful to see all these different walks of life coming together to oppose the authoritarian takeover that's happening right now.
Yeah. So Loren, let me ask you, because you study political communications, right?
No, I studied public relations and advertising.
Okay.
I fell into this work.
Got it. So on that theme, when the president uses words like, enemy, like enemy language, like that, labeling half the country as anti-American, what's the long-term psychological and political cost to the American, experiment?
Well, I was just thinking about this the other day because I recognized Caroline Leavitt and Kristi Noem repeatedly, and others in the administration repeatedly referred to Trump as transparent, and he's all about transparency. And that repetition alone, just like in this example, the intention there is to, and can you hear me? I got some background noise now. I can close.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. What, they doing some weed blowing?
Every right. So we know that communication strategists is repeat, because it overrides your mental thought process. In communication, you start to kind of think less of them being on the defense and more of like, okay, if you hear it enough, your brain will start to, and when you think about where people are getting access to information, I was in New York during the election cycle last year, and I turned on cable news in my hotel room, and I was like, this is the messaging that my parents are getting and receiving, which is painting New York City as this city overturned by illegal cartel members. And I'm like, what the fuck? So we know that there's intention behind the repeated, it's an authoritarian takeover, and they'll just keep doing it until people believe it or don't hear otherwise. And then they'll continue to parrot it back and kind of as if it's become second nature.
That's a Stalinistic approach, right? You repeat the lie often until the lie becomes the truth. That's kind of the way that it gets described. But I'm with you on it. And, I like how he, refers to Caroline Leavitt as machine gun lips. Then you have, I'm not 100% certain I understood the analogy, but I understand. It just didn't make any sense. But what they're doing is they are basically saying, if you are not even just Republican at this point in time, and it's not, I shouldn't even have said half the country, it's a plurality, a significant plurality, like maybe 70% of the country, they are now labeling that large group, 70% of our country, as being, enemies from within. Right? You could be a Republican. You could be a Republican that voted for Trump twice and still be an enemy because you believe that the behavior of this administration is so abhorrent that you cannot any longer sit back. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, once the most pro-MAGA person that was out there, she, Josh Hawley, Matt Gaetz, the Rat Pack, she is now like the North Star of the former MAGA movement. When she starts making sense, now you know that there's a real problem.
Sobering.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. And I think with the administration right now, it's the Antifa stuff is nuts. It's also, we see the data coming out of Trump's approval rating. I think it's now 1 in 4, 25% of people who once supported him regret that vote or are disappointed in what he's doing. So he's likely recognizing that this pattern of dissent is increasing as he continues to act like a total asshole, and more people are standing up against it. So yeah, it's crazy times.
And let's not forget that a lot of people standing up against it because now they're finally feeling it themselves in their pockets. Remember, like all the farmers that used to paint the top of their barns, right? Trump 2024 or Trump 2020. They literally draped the sides of barns with, MAGA flags and so on. Well, right now they're sucking shit through a straw because they can't sell their product. Why? Well, because of Trump's 100% tariffs with China, and now they're stuck. They don't want handouts. They're proud, decent people who want to work for a living to sell the goods that they produce with their own hands. It's not that you push a button, boom, next thing out pops a fucking Labubu. You're talking about harvesting, and then you have to prepare the land for the next crop with your fertilizers and your seed, and you got to make sure that the soil is rich with fertilizer and it's watered, and you got to hope that there's not heat or flooding. You don't have to hope that there's no flies that kill the crop, and they finally get it together. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of bushels of soy and grain and whatever it might be. And now all of a sudden you have, fuck you, we're putting 100% tariff on China. China's going to pay 100%.
He's already backpedaled that one.
I don't know. As of
like a little bit ago, but who knows?
Then he put it back forward, and he even said in the Oval Office that we're in a trade war with China, despite the fact that Besson said the exact opposite.
I think a lot of people are learning the hard way what a tariff is. And there was a lot of people Googling tariffs for the first time after they realized that the American people are the ones who are going to pay the price on Trump's little war with people he doesn't like. And what we saw with soybean gate, what was that, 2 weeks ago with the tax,
Yep.
where we gave that money to Argentina, and now all the American farm workers who have had farmland and their families for generations are now going to lose all of that work. And we're going to also see the monopolization and corporatizing of farm working, and all of this produce and whatnot is going to be coming from, it's going to be going to corporate contracts. So entire industries are going to be wiped out.
Yeah.
I thought about our agriculture a lot around when ICE really kind of turned the volume up in January in California, where it was just like people on the right and the MAGA people were like, yeah, Trump. And it's like, do you not realize that California supplies the majority of agriculture to the entire, we feed these are the people, the workers that feed the entire United States, not to minimize their impact or their significance of their lives down to their work. But I said at that time, I was like, I hope these people eat cheese doodles for the rest of their fucking life, because you don't deserve this food from these people who are breaking their backs to get it to you, to supply food to the nation. And you're like, white nationalism, let's go. So the tariffs are nuts. We're going to continue to see the economic impacts of that, the cultural impacts of that. And it's once you look into it, it's just complete nonsensical. It's just Trump mad about shit and trying to hold power over people who, especially the Gen Pop, might not be smart enough to know what's actually going on.
Well, let me just start by saying that I happen to like cheese doodles, and I used to tell my mom that it's high in vitamin C because of its orange color.
You say on that journey.
It's got to be true. If we stayed here in Mea Culpa, it's got to be true. Cheese doodles, and they are high in vitamin C. So, yeah, look, we're now in the process of just beginning, say, week 4 of our government shutdown. Federal workers, unpaid, but billions of dollars, billions are being poured into stupid things like this parade. You know, I heard there's so many different numbers that are being tossed around for how much this is going to cost. 20 million, 30 million. I don't even know what the numbers are. But then there's so much money being thrown into, like ICE as an example, right? They're being poured into things that do not help America. In fact, it takes us to the other side. What do you think the end game is here? Political hostage taking or chaos strategy?
I mean, we know that it's really just about Trump trying to appease his billionaire donors and enrich his life and at the expense of everyone else. But really, like, with the government shutdown, what we're seeing is like they tried to spin it as, oh, the Democrats want the government shut down, but they're losing that narrative because people are starting to wisen up and realize, okay, actually our healthcare is on the line. There's very real consequences to this. People are not getting paid. Burbank Airport was without air traffic control. Like, shit's going sideways real quick. And I think people are beginning to slowly but surely wisen up to the fact that, like, hey, we have money. The capital exists. If we can fund other people's wars, if we can fund the gold room, if we can fund missiles into California for no fucking reason, then surely medical debt and student debt shouldn't exist. So whenever I have people, especially like it's the archetype of like the guys making $40,000 a year from my high school, rioting in my comment section on social for capitalism in opposition to like medical debt shouldn't exist and student debt shouldn't exist, that people should just work harder. It's like, do you not realize that the funds exist? We're just using it to dick around for Trump instead. And yeah.
I mean, we're in such a weird place right now. It's really hard to imagine, especially we were talking before about what's taking place in Chicago and so on. Imagine that a federal judge in Illinois had to order the administration to explain to him its role in the escalating violence against protesters in Chicago. Right? He made it crystal clear. Protesters are protected under the First Amendment. And personally, I have a connection to this. My judge, Alvin K. Hellerstein, after they unconstitutionally remanded me back to prison, making me the first political prisoner in American history because I refused to waive my own First Amendment constitutional right, he actually mandated that they are hereby enjoined from taking any further actions that inhibits my constitutional right. And I'm saying to myself, we're never going to see that crazy shit ever again. Well, lo and behold, the federal judge in Illinois orders this Trump administration to explain its role in escalating the violence against protesters. So, Loren, my question I want to ask you is, what does it say when the courts have to intercede? The courts have to demand accountability from a White House that's treating protesters as enemy combatants.
I mean, it demonstrates how sideways this has all gone. And what I've really enjoyed out of these protest movements is seeing some of the kind of creativity coming out of Portland, and Portland staying weird and resisting in their own weird Portland way, because things like the Resistance Toad and, they got Yoshi and all these cast of characters out there. And you're watching the live streams of these demonstrations and you're seeing literal guns drawn on the rooftops with people in inflatable, goofy costumes just standing up, demanding that they stop kidnapping their neighbors. So the juxtaposition couldn't be more clear that, like, we are not this violent mob of militia that you guys are. And the cost of this is insane. So I want to see more intervention from the administration and from the courts. I don't have much hope for that. I mean, we saw some progress in California with Gavin getting passed through the end of racial profiling around these attacks and kidnappings. But that was rolled back. So we just need more of it. We need more protections because we have not seen the worst of this yet. It's going to continue to escalate quickly, especially following this weekend, because we know people are going to show up. They're unafraid. They've got nothing to lose, and they're going to be putting their bodies on the line to just stand together in community against the Trump administration and demand change. But it's going to piss them off more, which good, but we should be prepared. And just, we know that it's all a theater and theatrics, but it's a fucking lie.
Well, listen, you've heard me say it before. When this administration is willing to use federal force against its own citizens during peaceful protests and then go ahead and celebrate military might, right? It's setting a precedent right now of domestic control through fear. Like, I know people who are saying to me, I don't know if I'm going to really go to that, to the No Kings rally. I'm kind of like afraid. I don't want, I'm not a card carrying Antifa, like, right? There is no such thing. It's not like a card carrying Klansman or a card carrying NRA member. Doesn't exist. And so I believe that they're really looking just to control domestic movement through fear.
Yeah, it's intended to scare people. I will be out there without a doubt. This is a really important time for people like me to use their privilege and to stand on the front lines, because we know how law enforcement treats people of color. And this is a good opportunity for me to be out there and standing in community and resistance, just watching the shit that goes down. I mean, I've been in crowds that have been pepper sprayed and saw the flashbangs and been out there during all that stuff. It's wild, but it's also a time where you could be really proud of your community and the people that you're surrounded by, because they've had enough. And it works.
You ever hit that point where your body starts sending error messages that your doctor can't translate? Aches, fatigue, brain fog. And the guy just shrugs and says, you're getting older. Yeah, thanks, Dr. Obvious. I mean, real insight there. And that's when I found superpower. And I'll tell you, it's the first time I felt like someone actually gave me the full picture. They test over 100 biomarkers: heart, liver, thyroid, hormones, vitamins, even toxins. And they break it all down for you in plain English. Then they build you a personalized plan: supplements, nutrition, lifestyle tweaks, and they even tell you your true biological age. I mean, to be honest, I was relieved mine didn't come back as ancient. Now, let me be clear. It's proactive health, not the usual guessing game. And the best part, you track your results over time, like watching your health improve instead of waiting for it to fall apart. Now, usually this level of testing runs $499, but right now, Superpower's offering the whole experience for $199. And I'm telling you, it's worth it just to finally know what's going on inside your own body. So head right now to superpower.com to learn more and to lock in that $199 price while it lasts. That's superpower.com, superpower.com. Go sign up, find out what your body's really saying, and tell them that Mea Culpa sent you. Your biology decoded. It's your superpower.
It's designed to scare people, but we know that this work is important, and if it wasn't important, they wouldn't be working so hard to shut us up.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Meanwhile, you want to talk about decay, GOP, Republican decay? Look no further than what came out just the other days. Young Republicans with their vile text messages. I want to talk about that for a second because these racist, sexist, misogynistic, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic comments, openly mocking the violence at protests and mocking individuals. One guy, I think, used the N-word like you use punctuation, like a period at the end of a sentence. I never saw anything like it. Obviously, these idiots never thought this Telegram text message chain was good. But you have hundreds of people on it, all applauding the usage of words that shouldn't even exist. How deep you think that this rot goes inside the GOP's next generation? Look, whatever happens with the old folks, as we like to call them, the altacacas, it doesn't make a difference. They're yesterday's news. It's this next generation that really concerns me because they're taking a page out of a very ugly page, out of a playbook, very ugly page.
I think one of the things that was most jarring to me about the second term Trump presidency is that after the ear bullet situation, that really uncloseted a lot of folks. And it gave people permission to come out and say, you know what, I fuck with Trump. And Trump gave people permission, as somebody who's ascended to the highest position of power in our US government, to be racist, to be openly xenophobic, to be homophobic, transphobic, and to just stand for white nationalism so overtly that I was shocked, and I shouldn't have been, at how many people were uncloseted in the last 9 months and through the election cycle, where we see these Andrew Tate archetypes, these Logan Pauls, and we see young folks listening to them, getting, mad about something, hearing what they want to hear in their insular echo chamber and being like, oh, that's all I needed to hear. I'm good. I've learned what I need to learn. I've made up my mind and I'm done learning. And I'm, just going to stay in this little insular environment of hate and white supremacy where I'm protected and nobody comes for me. And that's that. And it's continuing to play out in legislation and attacks on people. We're vilifying the trans community. We're vilifying immigrants who this nation was built upon. And we're doing it through white people. So it's where do you think your family came from, Tom?
Yep.
How do you think you got here? So it's just nuts. And something's got to give, which is, I think, why the call to action for everyone to show up this weekend is so key. But it's continually disappointing to see somebody like Trump in the highest position of power in his cabinet pushing such hateful rhetoric. We're seeing it trickle down. And it's just become so normalized. We don't even really flinch at it anymore. It's almost expected.
Yeah, we have normalized cruelty, and we've normalized this sort of grotesque expression. Listen, you want to be a racist? Constitutionally, you're protected to be a racist. It's why the KKK even still exists in America. Doesn't mean you should. Doesn't mean it's right. But you are constitutional.
Constituents ever either.
Totally agree. Or to be an idiot and to be the vice president of the United States, because Shady Vance's response literally was to turn around and say, they're just kids being kids, right? Going right back to the old Trump immature locker room talk, right? What do you think that this sort of stupidity by our fucking vice president of the United States, a guy who politically would never have ascended above where he was before.
He bootlicked his way to the top.
He sure did, right? What does it say or reveal about the moral bankruptcy of today's Republican leadership?
I mean, JD Vance is completely spineless. He's the same man who once said very publicly that Trump is America's Hitler. And as I said before, he bootlicked his way to the top. I never want to hear that reference about a woman ever again, because JD Vance is the epitome of that. And this is a man who, the couch rumors, the guy liner, he weaponizes.
What are you talking about? He lost his virginity to his couch. By the way, I could see in the background, you have a beautiful couch. Don't ever let him come to your home.
No. Him not here. Chrissy, no, I'm nowhere near my dog. But yeah, he is just the most spineless sheep of them all. And I don't want him in California this weekend, which I'm annoyed about. But with JD Vance, it's so harmful to enable that language. And I hope that people are wise enough to be like, what the fuck? This, we deserve actual leadership who are going to represent the people and not encourage hate or dismiss. I think he was, to your point, he said something about it's just kids. They're 22 years old, a lot of them, 23, 25. Those are adults, fully developed prefrontal cortexes.
18 to 40 was the ages of the people in that text message. 18 to 40.
I can't say I'm surprised. I didn't fall out of my chair when I read those text messages. My chats were blowing up with them, but it's just, I'm not surprised. They're not doing this in hidden chats. They're doing it. Trump is doing it every day when he goes out and speaks. Pete Hegseth, same thing. He was trying to, what was that, a couple weeks ago he was rallying the troops, being like, it's about masculinity and no trans people and all this. And it's they are not the enemy. You are. And it's,
my biggest concern, Loren, here, when you have this political cruelty that becomes kind of a social currency amongst these young conservatives, the next generation, I truly believe that we are risking the creation of a generation that views empathy for others as weakness and power as the only virtue that they should be interested in. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah, I mean, I think about unlearning in my own journey, unlearning a lot of problematic things about how women should be in positions of power and XYZ, and think about that on a mass scale with the rhetoric coming out of our leadership and the implications that this is going to have for generations on culture, because we're enabling people to be so out of the closet with hate and divisiveness, and from the highest people in government. So I think at the heart of it, a lot of these people, it's misguided rage. They're mad about something. They're mad about not being far enough along in their life as they want to be. They're mad about the cost of rent, their mortgage, the inaccessibility of the American dream. But it's a distraction from the people that they actually need to be mad at.
Right.
Immigrants are not the reason you don't own a home. And you don't have enough money to care for it's the administration, it's the system that we need to that has control.
By the way, you know who used that same exact language?
Who?
Adolf Hitler.
Oh God. Me?
100%.
My language?
No, the language that you were just, not your language, the language you were saying from the administration.
Oh,
no,
okay.
when he said, we have to blame, we have to blame somebody.
Of course. There's a ton of parallels between Nazi.
Remember, because in Poland, in Germany at the time, and all throughout Eastern Europe, financially, countries were really, really suffering. Whose fault? Oh, it's the Jews' fault, right? And that's the goal, was to dehumanize so that the extermination just becomes much easier. But Loren, as the hour comes to an end, I have a final question for you. Yeah, it's always a doozy.
Okay, let's go.
When you step back and you look at all this, and I'm talking about you, Loren, when you look back at all of this, the messaging, the militarism, the manufactured enemies, you think that we're witnessing a man, talking about the president, unraveling? Or do you see a movement that's consolidating his control and power?
A little bit of both. So he's definitely, we're seeing him crash out in real time, and we're feeling the effects of that in real time. And at the same time, we are also seeing, and this is the part we try to hope and hold on to, we're seeing a great deal of resistance. Democratic Party still fumbling a whole lot, but we are seeing voices emerge, and Zoran Mandani call people in, educate them, lift them up. And the reality of this is that it's going to take all of us. Nobody can be a passive bystander in this time and say, I don't do politics. Politics doesn't affect me. Politics is going to do you whether you do politics or not. So everyone needs to wake up, lock in, and understand what's happening now is going to impact us for generations. So we have got to continue to resist. We've got to continue to stay informed. We've got a bunch of elections coming up. It's like another election year all over again in November, where we have to vote informed. We have to show up to special elections, because when we don't, it's not just individual voices that go unheard. Entire communities are going to suffer. So taking a great deal of responsibility there, and making sure everyone's mobilized around that too, in addition to this weekend. But shit is wild right now, and it's not done. It's only going to get worse. We have not seen the worst of this administration yet. So continuing to resist, stay informed, stay alert of all the shit that's going on, but also know that this is meant to divide us. This is meant to piss us off, meant to give us the whiplash that we're experiencing every single day with the headlines and the chaos. Yeah.
Well, Loren, thank you. And that's why I'm intending on having you come back
I'd love to come back
in a while. Yeah. By the way, before you go, why don't you tell my audience, we have a beautiful audience. You know, that Mea Culpa turned over 500 million downloads so far, right? We get hundreds of thousands of views on every episode. Tell everybody what you're doing, where they can find you.
So you can find me at I am Loren P on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok. I'm Loren Piretra on Twitter. We're working on that. But I post daily on I am Loren P on the Loren Piretra Show there. And I would love to have some of your audience join me. We're resisting. We're talking shit about the administration every day, and we're keeping people informed, calling them in, and calling out the chaos in a way that's very easy to understand and fun to follow. So would love to have some of them. And thank you so much for having me.
Well, Loren, great to see you, and I'll be speaking to you again soon.
Take care. Bye.